How strict do you have to be with yourself? I was talking to a client this morning and we decided that the level of temptation in her life was too much, and it was something that she could control. So we were asking the question, how strict do you have to be with yourself? And we had already tried the level of strictness whereby things were just out of sight, out of mind. So case in point, say you're trying to curb a certain habit, some kind of food habit. It's something that you know that you just scoff and you mindlessly eat and you kind of binge on. And what you're trying to do is curb that binge mentality, to curb how much you just mindlessly shove in your mouth, okay? So one level of being strict with yourself could be just keeping it out of sight, out of mind. Keeping it in a cupboard so that you can't physically see it and you have to go to the cupboard to get it. Whether it's the wine, whether it's the cheese, whether it's the chocolate, whether it's the crisps, or whatever the vice is that you're trying to give up, okay? That's one level of strictness with yourself, whereby you just minimize how frequent you actually see it, because if it's in your line of sight, you know that you're going to succumb and you're going to just have it, and you're going to have it all, okay? I mean, for me personally, I am of the mentality that I need to be stricter with myself than that. And that's why I can't even buy crisps and chocolates and all that kind of stuff. It can't be in the house for me because I know that it's there. Even though I can't see it, I know that it's there. I can easily go and get it. And therefore, the second level of strictness for me is to not even have it in the house. Okay, so that's the second level of strictness that we also came upon and we decided upon for this particular client, and whereby she agreed that she can't even have this vice in the house for herself. So it wasn't about just hiding it in a cupboard or making it more difficult for her to actually get to in the house. It was actually removing that temptation by controlling her environment, by being strict with herself and going, look, this is what the shopping list is. It's not even going to enter the shopping list. It's not going to go into my trolley. It's not going to be delivered to my house, so that I have no way of even getting the crisps, the chocolate, the Prosecco, the wine, the whatever it is that you're trying to give up. So which level of strictness do you need to dole out on yourself? First of all, you have to work out what it is that you want to change. And if it's this particular vice, you know, the typical ones are wine, chocolate, cheese, sugar, crisps, whatever it is. So assess how bad the situation is in terms of, are you fully aware of what the medium to long-term impact is of this particular habit? And if you continue this habit for the next 6 months, a year, what is going to happen? Because by assessing and kind of thinking ahead as to what could happen if you were to continue this habit, that is going to put the fire up your arse to actually do something about it. And then we look at what you're going to do. Are you going to be as strict, level 1 strictness of just get out of sight, out of mind, so it's not in your line of sight? It's like the typical, I'm thinking back to when I was in the office. You know, I used to work in an office and there would be treats brought in every Friday, or when it was someone's birthday, or if someone was leaving, or it was an anniversary, or just because it was a day that ended in Y, frankly. And I found that if things were in my line of sight, you know, that tray of donuts, the tray bake, the treats from M&S, or whatever it was, if it was in my line of sight, I would find myself drawn towards it and like grabbing as much of that stuff as I could. Whereas if I couldn't even see it, if it wasn't there, the temptation's not there in the first place then. There's nothing to tempt me. My environment is such that it's not going to tempt me. So look at your environment. Look at whether you're making it too easy for yourself to be tempted. And then also look at, like, one classic excuse I hear is, but I've got it in for the kids. I'm an adult, but I've got it in for the kids. So how about changing what you're giving the kids as well? That's a whole other podcast, I guess. But that's just a suggestion, all right? In terms of the whole family should be, in my opinion, should all be eating in the same way, right? Rather than parents leading by example, eating one way, and then the kids somehow not being taught to eat the same way. I think there should be a way of eating and drinking that is sustainable so that the whole family can employ that way of eating and drinking. But let's go back to the levels of strictness. The second level of strictness is to not even have it in the house. To remove the temptation. If you're the type of person who knows that if it's there, you're going to have it. So therefore, take it out of the equation. Don't have it in the house. And then secondly, you want to replace that usual habit that you had with something else so that you break the cycle. Because before, when you were giving into the temptation, what was happening was you would have some kind of trigger, some kind of emotional trigger that was like, I don't know, it's the end of the day, I've had a bad day, it's 8 o'clock, whatever it is, there was a trigger there. And then you, over time, associated that trigger with you completing the loop, shall we say, by going and getting that vice, whatever it is, and making yourself feel different, even if it was temporary, because in the longer term, you're actually kicking yourself for having succumbed to this temptation. So then you need to replace that habit with something else. So, instead of the trigger being, I'm going to sit down on the sofa and therefore I'm going to have a snack, it could be you sit down on the sofa and you're going to pick up the paper or you're going to read a book or whatever it is. So what level of strictness do you need to have in your life to make the changes that you said you wanted to make? Level 1 or level 2?